I still remember the sound of that knock. Sharp, impatient, like it had no mercy. It was early morning, and Mom was washing dishes. I was 17, still in my pajamas, when two police officers stepped into our kitchen like they owned it. "Ma'am, you're under arrest for the suspected murder of Sylvia Hart," one said flatly. My heart froze. Sylvia. Her. My dad's secretary. The woman who had turned our home into a battlefield. Mom's hands trembled. "Murder?" she whispered. "That woman attacked me. I didn't—" But they didn't care. They cuffed her right there beside the breakfast table. The clinking metal echoed in my head as my dad stood frozen by the doorway, eyes wide, saying nothing. Nothing at all. I screamed. I begged them to stop. But Mom just looked at me, calm, tearful, and strong. "Ruby, don't be scared," she said as they led her away. "The truth will come out." Through the window, the neighbors watched. Whispers were already forming. "She killed her," someone murmured. I pressed my palms to the glass as the car pulled away. And that was the moment I realized, in this town, once they pick their villain, they never wait for the truth. By noon, the story had spread faster than wildfire. "Secretary found dead after fight with boss's wife." That's how the local radio said it. Like it was fact, not gossip. At school, whispers followed me everywhere. "That's her, the killer's daughter." I kept my head down, wishing I could disappear. Even the teachers looked at me differently. Dad didn't come home that night. He said he had to talk to the lawyers. But I knew better. He was hiding. He couldn't face what his choices had done. That evening, Grandma June, Mum's mother, held me tight on the porch. "Your mama ain't no killer, Ruby. Don't you let this town make you forget who she is." But I could see the cracks in her voice. She was scared too. Everyone was. Sylvia's family was powerful. Her brother worked in the sheriff's office, and her mother owned half the rental properties in town. As night fell, I sat in Mom's chair by the window, replaying everything. The fights, the humiliation. The way Sylvia used to smile at my dad right in front of us. I didn't know it yet, but that woman's lies were about to destroy everything. And uncover secrets none of us were ready for. It started 2 years earlier. Dad had just opened his real estate office downtown. He hired Sylvia as his secretary, young, sharp, always wearing red lipstick. I remember the first day she came by the house. "Your husband asked me to drop these off," she said sweetly, holding out a folder. Mom thanked her, polite as always. But I noticed how long Sylvia's eyes lingered on Dad. At first, she came once a week, then twice, then every other day, bringing food, doing laundry, even helping in the kitchen. Mum thought she was being kind. I thought she was strange. I'd catch her brushing Dad's sleeve, laughing too hard at his jokes, and Dad, he didn't push her away. One night, I heard them arguing. Mum's voice shook. "She's getting too close, Ben. You can't let her walk all over this family." Dad sighed. "You're overreacting, Dorothy. She's just helping." But I saw Sylvia's smirk the next morning when she came by again, wearing Dad's favorite color, blue. That was the first time I understood that danger doesn't always come with a gun or knife. Sometimes it comes smiling, carrying your family's laundry. By spring, Sylvia wasn't pretending anymore. She'd show up uninvited, wearing perfume that filled every corner of the house. She'd sit too close to Dad, talk too loud, laugh too long. Mum started avoiding her, keeping her tone polite but cold. One afternoon, I walked into the kitchen and froze. Sylvia was standing there, sipping coffee from Mum's favorite mug. When Mum saw it, she stopped mid-step. "Put that down," she said quietly. Sylvia smiled, tilting the mug in her hand. "Oh, this?" Ben said I could use it. The silence stretched so long I could hear the clock ticking. Then, without warning, Mum slapped the mug out of her hand. It shattered on the floor, coffee splashing across Sylvia's shoes. Sylvia's expression twisted. She didn't look shocked. She looked satisfied, like she'd been waiting for that moment. "I'll make sure you regret that," she whispered, stepping over the broken pieces. That night, I heard Mom crying in the bathroom. Dad was gone again, and I didn't know where. I wish I'd known then that Sylvia wasn't just trying to take my father. She wanted to destroy my mother completely. The day before everything collapsed, Sylvia showed up with a suitcase. "Ben said I could stay for a while," she said, smiling like she owned the place. Mum froze. "Over my dead body." Dad came in, looking tired. "It's just for a few days," he muttered. "She lost her apartment." Mum's voice shook. "She can find another one." But Sylvia walked right past her, dragging her suitcase upstairs, into the guest room, into our home. I'll never forget that night. The shouting, the crash, the sound of something breaking upstairs. I ran up to see Mom and Sylvia in the hallway, both breathing hard. Sylvia shoved Mom first. "You're pathetic," she hissed. "He doesn't want you anymore." Then Mom snapped. She pushed her back. Sylvia fell, hitting the wall. For a second she looked dazed, then smirked. "You'll pay for that." The next morning she was found dead in her apartment. And by noon Mom was in handcuffs. The day of Sylvia's funeral felt like the whole town turned into a stage. And we were the villains. People lined up with flowers, but their eyes were sharp. Watching, whispering, I stood by Grandma June's side as Sylvia's mother, Mrs. Hart, passed us. She didn't spit or scream. She just stared. Long, cold, unreadable. I wanted her to hate us. It would have made more sense. Dad didn't show up. He said he couldn't handle the attention. But I knew it wasn't that. He was hiding. Maybe from guilt, maybe from truth. As the pastor spoke, a chill ran through me. Sylvia's coffin looked smaller than I expected. And though I wanted to feel relief, all I felt was fear. Fear of what would come next. When Mrs. Hart finally spoke, her voice cracked. "My daughter wasn't perfect," she said softly, "but she didn't deserve this." The crowd nodded like a chorus. Every face turned toward me and Grandma June. That night, I dreamt of Sylvia, standing at our door again, holding that same mug, smiling like she knew something we didn't. They brought Mom in for questioning again 2 days later. I waited outside that grey police room for hours. Through the glass, I saw her sitting straight, hands folded, eyes tired but fierce. Detective Harlan leaned over the table. "You had a fight with Sylvia Hart the night before she died." Witnesses heard yelling. Mom nodded. "She came into my home. She attacked me. Did you push her?" Mom's voice was steady. "Yes." In defense. He smirked, jotting something down. "And what happened after that?" "She left." But that wasn't enough for them. They wanted a confession. Something to feed the papers. When Mom came out, she looked pale. "They said they found my fingerprints on a glass in her apartment," she whispered. I blinked. "How? You've never been there." She didn't answer, just stared ahead. Later, Grandma told me what everyone else was already whispering. Someone planted it. But who? That night, I saw Dad's phone light up. A message blinked on the screen. From an unknown number. "It's done. You owe me." My stomach dropped. I knew I shouldn't have done it. But I waited till Dad fell asleep, then crept into his office. The air smelled like stale coffee and cheap cologne, the same scent Sylvia used to wear. I opened his desk drawer. Beneath bills and papers, there was a small envelope. Inside were photos, him and Sylvia, hugging, laughing, kissing. My chest burned. Every image was like a slap. But one photo stood out. Sylvia, sitting on his desk, holding a keychain, with our house key on it. Our key. That's when I realized she had access. To everything. Even Mom's mug, even the glass, they said, had fingerprints. I stumbled out of the office. the pictures shaking in my hands. When Dad woke up, I confronted him. "How long, Dad? How long were you with her?" He didn't yell, didn't deny it. He just looked away. "It's not what you think, Ruby." "It's exactly what I think," I snapped, my voice breaking. "You let her into our lives. And now Mum's paying for it." He didn't say another word, but that silence told me everything. The next week, something strange happened. Mrs. Hart showed up at Grandma June's porch. She looked tired, older somehow. "I just want to ask," she began, "did your daughter ever know my Sylvia was sick?" We stared at her. "Sick?" Grandma asked. Mrs. Hart nodded. "She was diagnosed with lupus last year. She hid it from everyone. She said it made her weak, and she refused treatment. She thought she could control it." The air went still. "So, she was already ill before she died?" Grandma asked again. "Yes," Mrs. Hart whispered. "And the autopsy report? It's inconclusive. They're saying heart failure, not trauma." I stepped forward, heart pounding. "Then why are they still blaming my mom?" Mrs. Hart hesitated. "Because the sheriff's office needs someone to blame. And my son—" She paused, lowering her eyes. "He's the one handling the case." That night, I couldn't sleep. For the first time, I felt something different. Hope. Maybe Sylvia's death wasn't what it seemed. Maybe the truth really could come out. I found Dad sitting on the porch, staring into the dark. "I know about Sylvia," I said quietly. "I know what you did." He didn't turn around. "Ruby, it's complicated." "No," I said, my throat tightening. "It's simple. You ruined everything." He ran a hand through his hair. "You think I wanted this?" "She threatened to go to the press. Said she'd tell everyone I used company money on her." I froze. "So you paid her off?" He nodded slowly. "But she wanted more. She said if I didn't make your mother leave, she'd destroy us all." My chest ached. "And now Mom's the one behind bars." He looked at me, really looked at me. For the first time in weeks. "There's something you need to know, Ruby. The night she died, I was with her." The world tilted. "What?" He swallowed hard. "I left after the fight. She said she wasn't feeling well. When I came back the next morning, she was gone." Tears blurred my vision. "And you didn't tell the police?" He shook his head. "If I did, they'd think I killed her too." After Dad's confession, the silence in our house felt heavy. Every creak sounded like an accusation. Mum called from the detention center that evening. Her voice was soft, but steady. "Ruby, promise me you'll stay strong," she said. "And don't believe everything they say about your father." Her words confused me. Why was she protecting him? Later that night, I overheard Grandma talking to Aunt Liza on the phone. "They're hiding something," she whispered. "The sheriff's office isn't releasing Sylvia's full medical file." That word, hiding, lodged in my head. At school, whispers followed me down every hallway. "Murderer's daughter," someone muttered. I kept walking, chin up, heart cracking. When I got home, I found an envelope taped to our door. Inside was a single sheet of paper. "Look deeper. Start with the clinic she visited before she died. No name, no address, just a faint scent of cigarettes. The kind Sylvia always smoked." My hands trembled. Who sent this? And why did it smell like her? Grandma drove me to the small clinic on the edge of town. The nurse looked nervous when I asked about Sylvia. "I'm sorry, sweetheart. I can't release patient info," she said gently. But when I mentioned Mrs. Hart, her eyes softened. That poor woman. She came by last month asking the same questions. I leaned in. "Did Sylvia come here before she died?" She hesitated. "Yes, she said she wasn't feeling well. Complained about fatigue and dizziness." The doctor ordered some tests. I swallowed hard. Do you know what the results were? She glanced around, then whispered, You didn't hear it from me. But Sylvia was pregnant. The words hit me like a punch. Pregnant? By who? When I told Grandma, she gasped. Your father. I shook my head. We don't know that. But deep down, a sick feeling grew. That night, I searched Dad's office again. Under the floorboard, I found a sealed letter, addressed to B. Harding. I opened it. Inside was a single ultrasound photo and a note. We need to talk before I tell your wife. My breath caught. B. Harding. My father's name was Benson Harding. The next morning, Mrs. Hart showed up again, this time with tears in her eyes and a folder in her hand. I can't live with this anymore, she said, stepping inside. You need to know the truth, Ruby. She handed me Sylvia's medical records. She wasn't pregnant for long. Barely 5 weeks, but she was terrified. She said the father wouldn't take responsibility. I froze. Did she say who it was? Mrs. Hart shook her head. No. She said he was a married man. Someone important. Grandma frowned. Important how? She mentioned a promotion. Some kind of deal. I didn't think much of it. Until now, I opened the file again. The doctor's note was scrawled in blue ink. Patient refused treatment. Emotional distress likely due to relationship issues. Mrs. Hart looked away. I tried to stop her, but she said she wanted revenge. My heart thudded. On who? Mrs. Hart whispered. Your mother. I felt the air leave the room. Everything. The fights, the whispers, the planted glass. Suddenly made sense. Sylvia hadn't just wanted Dad. She wanted to destroy Mom. 2 days later, Grandma got a call from a friend at the sheriff's office. They're closing the case, she said urgently. They've already drafted the charge sheet for your daughter. I couldn't breathe. They can't. We have proof. We rushed to the station, but Detective Harlan barely looked up from his desk. The DAs made their decision, he said flatly. We found consistent evidence linking your mother to the scene. I slammed the folder on his desk. You mean this evidence? The one Sylvia's own mother says is incomplete? He frowned. I opened the medical report and pointed to the note. She was sick. She died of heart failure, not from a fight. He leaned back, smirking. You watch too many crime shows, kid. Before Grandma could speak, Mrs. Hart stormed in. You listen here, Harlan. I raised that girl, and I know she was her own worst enemy. Don't you dare pin this on an innocent woman. The entire station went silent. Harlan's jaw clenched. Mrs. Hart, this isn't your business anymore. She glared at him. It is. Especially since you're my son. The room spun. The sheriff was Sylvia's brother. That night, we found our porch, light shattered. Someone had thrown a rock through the window. Grandma called the police, but no one came. They're ignoring us, she muttered, her hands shaking. I sat in my room, staring at Sylvia's photo. Her smile looked different now, sharp, knowing. The phone rang. When I answered, there was silence. Then a voice whispered, Stop digging, Ruby, or you'll end up like her. My heart stopped. Who is this? Click. I ran to Grandma's room. Someone just called me. She hugged me tight. They're scared. That means we're close. But fear crawled under my skin. I could almost feel eyes watching us through the dark. Before bed, I checked Dad's office again. His things were gone, drawers empty, closet half-packed. He left a note on the desk. Don't look for me. It's safer this way. Tears stung my eyes. Everything was unraveling. But deep down, I knew I couldn't stop now. Because if I did, Mom would go to prison for a crime she didn't commit. 3 days after Dad disappeared, I found his car parked outside a run-down motel off Highway 14. The neon sign flickered vacancy, and rain dripped from the roof like a metronome counting down. I knocked, No answer. I knocked again. Dad, it's me. Finally, the door creaked open. He looked different, unshaven, hollow eyes, wearing the same shirt from the day he left. You shouldn't be here, he muttered. I had to find you, I said, my voice shaking. They're going to charge Mom, Dad. They're saying she killed Sylvia. But Mrs. Hart says... He cut me off, rubbing his temples. I know. I know everything. I stepped closer. Then tell me what really happened that night. He looked at me for a long time, then sighed. Sylvia called me after your mom left the house. She was hysterical, said she didn't feel well, begged me to come over. What did you do? I went. She said she'd taken something to calm down. I thought it was sleeping pills. When she passed out, I panicked. I didn't call for help. I just left my stomach twisted. You left her to die? He looked away. I didn't think she would. Dad handed me a small plastic bag. Inside was a half-empty bottle of pills. She took these, he said quietly. Prescription sedatives. Not mine. Hers. I stared at the label. Dr. Wells Clinic. Sylvia Hart. Why didn't you give this to the police? I demanded. He sighed. Because they'd twist it. They'd say I brought them to her. I clenched my fists. You think hiding it helps Mom? His voice cracked. Ruby, you don't understand. Harlan made it clear. If I say one word, he'll destroy us all. My mind raced. The sheriff, Sylvia's brother, was protecting her image even after death. That night, I took the bottle to Mrs. Hart. She studied it, eyes widening. That's not Sylvia's handwriting on the refill label, she whispered. She always looped her Y's. She looked at me, terrified. Someone tampered with her meds. Who would do that? I asked. She hesitated. Maybe someone who wanted her quiet. Or someone she threatened. The truth was closing in, but every answer raised a new question. And then my phone buzzed with a blocked message. You're next. The next morning, I went back to the station, anger boiling under my skin. Detective Harlan was there, sipping coffee, like the world wasn't burning. I dropped the pill bottle on his desk. Explain this, I said. He glanced at it, unimpressed. Old prescription. Doesn't prove anything. Maybe not, I said, leaning closer. But the handwriting doesn't match your sister's. And you're the one who signed off on the evidence log, aren't you? His smile faltered. Watch your mouth, kid. I lowered my voice. What are you so afraid of, Sheriff? The truth or losing control? For a moment, I saw something flicker in his eyes. Fear. Then he stood, towering over me. Go home, Ruby. Before you end up like your father, I froze. What did you do to him? He didn't answer. When I got back home, the front door was open, drawers emptied, the couch overturned, and on the table, my dad's wedding ring. No note this time, no sign of struggle. Just the silence of someone erased. 2 days later, Grandma got a package with no return address. Inside was a single envelope with my name. I opened it slowly. Ruby, if you're reading this, it means I couldn't fix what I broke. Sylvia was never supposed to die. She was sick, angry, and she wanted everyone to suffer with her. I didn't tell you everything. She wasn't only threatening me. She was blackmailing someone else too. Someone powerful. Don't trust Harlan. He's covering for more than his sister. Find the report at Dr. Wells's office. It'll prove everything. Dad tears blurred the ink. My father was gone, but he'd left me a trail. Grandma held my hand. Do you think he's alive? I don't know, I whispered. But I'm not giving up. We drove to Dr. Wells' clinic the next morning. The nurse from before recognized me and slipped us a sealed folder. Inside was Sylvia's toxicology report. High dosage of sedatives. Unprescribed compound. I stared at the signature. Authorized by Sheriff Harlan Hart. Grandma gasped. He forged it. That night, I arranged to meet Harlan at the old county park. I told him I had information that could help him close the case. He showed up right on time, in full uniform, with that same smug smirk. "So," he said, stepping close, "you found something?" I nodded, holding out a folder. "You signed off on a false report, Sheriff. You doctored evidence to protect your sister's name." He chuckled. "You think anyone's going to believe a 17-year-old? I smiled faintly. "They will. Because Mrs. Hart is with the county attorney right now, showing them everything." His face dropped. "You're lying." Before I could answer, a spotlight cut through the trees. Deputies surrounded us. Not his men, but the state police. One of them shouted, "Sheriff Harlan Hart, you're under arrest for obstruction of justice, evidence tampering, and conspiracy." He turned toward me, eyes full of hate. "You have no idea what you've started, girl." I met his gaze. "No, Sheriff. You have no idea what you ended." As they led him away, I realized justice was finally moving, but at what cost? When I heard the words, "Sheriff Harlan Hart has been arrested," my knees nearly gave out. The news anchor's voice echoed through the quiet kitchen, where Mom's coffee mug still sat untouched since the morning she was taken away. The man who'd sneered at me, who'd sworn my mother was guilty, was now in handcuffs. I could almost hear his voice again. "Justice always wins, Ruby." He was right. It just didn't win for him. Mrs. Hart stood beside me as the news broke. Her face, pale but steady, didn't flinch. "I told you," she whispered. "My daughter's death wasn't your mother's fault. It was his cover-up." The sheriff had buried evidence, falsified reports, and destroyed lab samples, all to protect Sylvia's name and himself. But beneath the small sense of relief was fear. If the sheriff was involved, how deep did this go? Mrs. Hart turned to me, her eyes wet. "We're not done yet. Your mother's still in that cell." And for the first time, I believed we might actually bring her home. Mrs. Hart and I sat in the attorney's office, a quiet tension filling the air. The lawyer, a firm woman named Ms. Jacobs, adjusted her glasses as she flipped through the old case files. "Your mother's confession was coerced," she said flatly, "and there's missing footage from the police interview room." "Guess who was on shift that day?" "Harlan Hart," I muttered. She nodded. "Exactly." I clenched my fists. I could almost feel Sylvia's ghost laughing from wherever she was. Even in death, her shadow loomed large. Mrs. Hart reached for my hand. "I'm sorry, Ruby. For everything Sylvia did, for how blind I was." Her voice cracked, and for the first time, she wasn't the mother of my enemy. She was just another mother who'd lost too much. Ms. Jacobs closed the file with a snap. "We'll get Dorothy Harding out. But Ruby, this trial will be ugly. The press will come for your family again." I looked her dead in the eye. "They already took everything from us." "I'm not afraid anymore." 3 weeks later, Miss Jacobs called me to her office. She didn't smile. She just hit play. The screen flickered to life. Grainy footage from the sheriff's private computer, retrieved during his arrest. There was Sylvia, sitting across from him, in his office, her voice trembling. "I didn't mean for it to go that far," she whispered. "Dorothy she wouldn't stop fighting back." "Then we make her stop," Harlan replied coldly. "You'll say she pushed you. I'll take care of the rest." My breath caught in my throat. Sylvia had framed my mother, and Harlan had built the lie around it. Tears streamed down my face, but I couldn't look away. Mrs. Hart, who had come with me, gasped softly. "That's it. That's the truth." Ms. Jacobs nodded. "This will clear your mother. Permanently." But I didn't feel victory, just exhaustion. Because even after the truth, Nothing could give us back what we lost. When Mom finally walked out of the courthouse, the air felt different, lighter, warmer. Her orange jumpsuit was gone. She wore a pale blue dress that matched the sky, though her face carried years of pain that time couldn't erase. "Ruby," she breathed. And when I ran into her arms, everything inside me broke open. "I never stopped believing you," I sobbed. She kissed my forehead. "You were stronger than I ever was." Reporters swarmed around us, shouting questions. Mrs. Hart stood nearby, facing the cameras with tears on her cheeks. "Dorothy Harding is innocent," she declared, "and my daughter's sins are her own." Benson Harding, my father, was still nowhere to be found. But in that moment, it didn't matter. Mum was free. And the truth had finally spoken louder than the lies. It's strange how silence feels after a storm. Months passed. The town stopped whispering. The sheriff was gone for good. Sylvia's name faded from headlines, leaving behind a stain no one wanted to touch. Mom and I moved to a small house outside Phoenix. She planted sunflowers in the yard, the same kind she used to grow before everything fell apart. Sometimes, when the wind blows, I swear I can still hear Sylvia's laughter. Not haunting, just distant. Like a ghost who finally let go. Mrs. Hart visits every Sunday. She never leaves without hugging my mom. "We can't change what happened," she always says, "but we can choose what happens next." And maybe that's the point. Revenge doesn't heal you. Truth does. Still, every time I sip from my mother's favorite mug, I remember the woman who tried to destroy us, and the truth that saved us instead.